Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of The Complete Advisor. This is an episode that you need to bookmark. This is an episode you've been waiting for. I'm going to have a conversation with Eric Bowman. Eric is an amazing advisor out of Colorado. Not only is he an amazing advisor, but he also is a mentor, has his own program. It's called the Rainmaker Program, helping educate advisors, giving them the path to become just plain better. One thing about Eric is he is, I would say, an outlier when it comes to his use of AI as an advisor. And he's doing it the right way. He's making sure everything's complied. But we're going to have a conversation on AI in your practice that you need. Frankly, you need to watch this episode. And then also you need to come back to it again and again because there is a lot of meat in this episode. Let's dive right in. Eric, we're going to dive right in.
Let's do it.
We have lots to cover. Okay, so everybody and their dog is talking about AI. You're actually using it. Scale of 1 to 10, how integrated into AI are you in the practice?
More than most. I don't know if I can give a scale of 1 to 10. There's some guardrails we're going to talk about that stop us from being a 10 for sure, like regulations, for example, and non-public information. But I think that we're way ahead of the curve in some of the ways that we're using it.
All right. So with that being said, when did you realize, because we had a conversation about this last night, when did you realize that AI was not just hype?
Okay, so real quick kind of a fact pattern for how Bowman Financial Strategies has used it. We could probably go back 2 years. Institutionally, we have access to Copilot. We're using it for emails and just all the basics that everybody was. Then we found ourselves having it up during client meetings. And then a specific question might come up that's a unique question about Social Security or a tax regulation. And we just get into Copilot and start asking it questions. Of course, review the source, make sure it's accurate, all those kind of disclosure items. But it lets you get to answers way more quickly live in meetings. So we would use it that way. Then I started realizing as I'm paying attention to the industry that we're underutilizing it. And so without knowing what we were going to do with it, I created what I call AI Hour. So every week the entire team gets together and we talk about how we're using AI, assigning out projects, just like literally making up projects to use so that they can start thinking about it. And then ultimately that got my gears spinning so much that I found about 4 different integrations that seem extremely powerful to the extent that we're even getting some of these, getting compliance approved for retail facing at some point, hopefully here in the next couple of weeks.
We're definitely going to talk compliance because that is super important.
Yes.
It just dawned on me when you mentioned how you started using it that for those folks for advisors that are hesitant or anybody who's hesitant, you actually have been using some form of AI with
spell
anything.
check.
Siri, like all these things, spell check, grammar, all these things have just we've been slowly working towards the promise of technology.
Yeah.
We've slowly been working towards the promise of the Siri ads, the Apple ads where they're having conversations, which it never worked on my phone. But where do you think most advisors are right now with AI?
So I like to use the riding a wave analogy. I picture this mammoth wave, getting bigger, by the way, and it never quite reaches the shore. It's like always rolling forward. And then you look out at this wave coming in and you see people on the surfboards. There are some people off to the far right riding that wave ahead, and there are other people just sitting there paddling. Some actually let the wave go by them. You don't want to be that person. You need to get on the wave now, and you need to start riding it now because you can never catch up to somebody that's really ahead typically.
That's right.
And the technology is moving so quickly that if you wait, you literally will miss these opportunities. And here's like an interesting just thought experiment is one could argue that the effort we've put in and what we've created could be done way easier 1 year from now with somebody who knows a lot less than we do. Could be true. But that means in the meantime, we could be 10x until that happens. And if we've been riding the wave, when that happens and a new technology is available, we'll have such better roadmap of how to leverage it even better to continue to be 10x ahead of the competitor.
Couldn't agree more. So with advisors that are out there, what are they overestimating with AI and what are they underestimating?
Overestimating that it can just have complete autonomy. I think that you have to think about AI as, and I heard this on some industry news I was listening to, think of AI as middle to middle, not end to end. So human is like a sandwich, AI is in the middle, but even inside of it, it's more like a club sandwich. If we're the bread, the human's the bread. It's human, AI, human, AI, human, AI, ending with a human. certainly required from a regulatory standpoint. But if you want the outputs, there's even, I would say, kind of a feeling. What are you trying to achieve and create? And if you're not involved, you're not going to get what you are trying to achieve and create exactly. The more you iterate with it as a person, the more it's going to create something that's more aligned with your outcome desire.
I like that a lot. So do you think in comparison terms, is this, are we sitting at...
well, you had asked another question. Then what are we underestimating?
Yeah.
Oh, we're underestimating its ability for autonomy at the same time, which is there are workflows. Like we've created this workflow for video creation that I actually think 3 months ago was impossible, but now with the release of Opus 4.6 within Anthropic's Claude allows you to do that if you're willing to put the time and effort in. And so we've created some workflow modules that allow us to basically record raw footage. 16 minutes later, you have complete cut and produced videos ready for compliance approval.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
The speed at which it's going. So do you feel like we're standing at the precipice of, say, social media in 2012 or maybe the internet in 97?
Bigger.
As far as
I think it's way bigger. I think that Wall Street doesn't understand what's actually happening in the industry out in Silicon Valley. I think that Wall Street's way behind. They're looking at big numbers like how could they ever spend this much and make the money up in profit? My observation is the opposite. How could they ever spend enough money given what the adoption rate will ultimately be? And I also think just talking to people that work at companies like Lumen and other really big industry players in different industries, that these people who are retiring, because that's our core client, are telling us how the AI adoption and mandates inside of the company just came out of nowhere. I think it's something that's happened in the last 3 months for some companies, last 6 months for others, but the knowledge that you really can take an employee, 10x their output, but maybe only 90% their effort. Like people think 10x output equals 10x work and we're going to overwork the good horses. It's the exact opposite. 10x the output and you might be able to actually do it on less effort. Wouldn't that be nirvana?
You know, I think about that because a lot of people, I actually have a stat for this. I read an article that said that only 3% of people who use AI actually have a subscription. And what most people have done is they've tried the free version. They've messed around with it a little bit. They think this isn't that great. This is just like another search engine. And the difference between like the free version, I was telling you last night, the difference when I hopped onto like Claude, the difference between the free version and where it's at now, I actually thought, well, this thing isn't that great. And then when I switched versions, I was like, oh my goodness.
Well, I operate probably a little bit differently than the average person, which is if you can combine, number one, conviction, passion, and integrity, those three things together, and the conviction part is, given what I know, do I believe it's real? I see no turning back. There's zero chance of a U-turn. It's only going to go up and it's going to increase in its pace of its capabilities. So if I believe that to be true, then it's all in. So I have max subscription for 4 AI services. I don't have any like the $20 version. I am max on every single one so that I can cross-check, produce at the highest level at any given time when I'm actually in production mode on just AI on my own time. I have 3 to 4 applications being iterated at the same time, so I have zero downtime in between iterations. I'm never staring at the screen going, look at how cool it is while it's thinking. No, I'm immediately on to another development task.
So back on the industry reality here. So who's going to get left behind?
It's going to be maybe old school advisors who don't want to take advantage of it. It doesn't necessarily mean like they're going out of business, but they're not going to grow at the pace that others will. They could lose business to others. If some of the packaging and messaging to clients is so strong, then an old school advisor could lose out, and they're going to rely solely on relationship, which I think is going to be a core capability that we all have to maintain and get better at. Otherwise, AI could make us less relevant and put price pressure on what we offer.
Price pressure is a big one.
Yeah, down the road. Yeah. But I think that you've got to be careful about just thinking it's all going to be about me if there's perceived higher value by the client that you currently have and you can't overcome it with relationship only, you could lose clients. That's what I think could happen. Imagine you're going against a firm that's able to not only have the relationship building piece, but the relationship piece is levered by AI, let alone the analytical piece is levered by AI. That's going to be a tough recipe to beat if you're just, I'm the guy, talk to me and I'll make you feel good.
So one of the things we are gonna talk about compliance guardrails here in just a little bit. But one thing I do want to do is for anybody, I would hate for anybody to have listened to us up to this point, turn the podcast off, hop on ChatGPT for the first time, upload all their client information,
Right.
and then they would have a serious problem.
Yes.
So we'll talk compliance in a second, but I do want to touch on data safety, making sure you're protecting yourself. What would be a couple practical tips that you would give somebody right now? Like if they're going to start using one of the AI services, they have to protect their data.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Number one, you must be compliance forward, following every regulation, getting with your compliance team and making sure they understand what you're developing. But step number one is never download NPI, non-public information, into AI for any of your clients. Step two, unless you got some IT team at some big RIA that's got approval to do this, never connect databases like your CRM software, whatever it may be, or your Google Docs if you're using that, or database files that you have. Never connect them autonomously through API keys or Zapier so that it can gather NPI on its own. So that's where we're at now. There's zero interactivity between our vendor tools that do contain NPI. They're approved for their use, not for us to all of a sudden gather it without having high-level protocol oversight by compliance. So never do that. We're working on something right now, for example, that I think shows how we apply this. We use something called the SRD, the Strategic Review Document, before every review meeting. It's simply a highlight of all the basic facts of the client that my team creates for me. So when I sit down, I don't need to do 10 minutes of prep. I've got the document. I know their tax rate. I know their Social Security is active or not, their beneficiaries, et cetera. How do we create the SRD in an automated fashion? The first guidance that I'm giving, because I'm assigning this to somebody on our team, is it does not involve getting into the CRM. It involves us creating a downloadable spreadsheet that has zero NPI, no account numbers, nothing. It would just have like a name anonymized to specific non-NPI data points like is Social Security active or not. So if you can then segment the data, and then when you use that data inside of, let's say, your ChatGPT of choice, whatever it may be, it then can only look at that data, and it doesn't have access to intuit anything else, like combining a date of birth and an account number, because it's simply not available to them. They haven't gotten it. And so that's the way we're approaching everything. The other one is that the tools that we're using that we've created for just internal analysis, not quite client-facing yet, they're standalone. They not connected to the internet, no requirement to be connected to the internet. They don't connect to any databases at all. There's zero connectivity. They are calculators that at the end of the day, you could get out a simple calculator and prove out your math. And that's it. And so if you limit the data that goes in, that means you can limit the accessibility of ChatGPT or Claude to access the data. And then you've created a self-limiting guardrail right there by never providing access.
That's important. So folks, you've got to make sure that you're keeping your
Number
data
one.
integrity. Keep it safe. Okay, so let's talk tactical. So what are you using? Let's talk a little bit about marketing. What does AI handle weekly in marketing for you? Are you using it now?
Well, it's been literally this turn-on switch in the last month where we've gone nuts with it. So on the marketing side right now, I think I woke up in the middle of the night and said, oh my God, I think I could create this video workflow. So I created a video workflow that I'll just explain this scenario. I get in front of my production camera, lights, camera, action. I hit record. OBS Studio records me, automatically downloads my video into a file folder that's watched by AI agent every 30 seconds. When it sees a new video there, it downloads that video, takes the video, scrapes the audio out. It applies a skill set, a Securities and Exchange compliance skill set that I've given it. It extracts all non-compliant language that maybe I mistakenly said the word guarantee or something. And it also evaluates it for it takes the audio out and gives it to another AI agent to transcribe it, who then sends it back to the oversight version of AI that says what's non-compliant. Then I had it read my book. So now it knows what retirement planning is. So it looks for educational content and divides the raw footage into segments. Then it takes each segment and creates a post for every social media, formatted appropriately for it, creates the text post for the topic at hand, and then automatically creates a 3-email nurturing campaign for that post. So I did my MVP or proof of concept was 11 p.m. after working on this all day long. I threw an old 1-hour video that I did for one of my Outlook and reviews that I do, and I threw it in there, and 16 minutes later I had 30 videos completely edited with a post for each one of the 6 pieces of educational content. So 6 educational pieces came out of an hour video with 5 videos, one for each social platform for each piece of educational content.
Dang.
Then a post for each one of those specific to it, and then an email nurturing campaign for each one of the 6 content pieces. And it did it all in 16 minutes. And when I hit success, I didn't sleep at all that night. I mean, I was up all night, fast heart rate. I'm like, the world has opened up to a new horizon.
The world has changed.
I couldn't believe it.
What would be something maybe that you used to pay for that you got AI handling now?
You know, the video piece is huge. That used to be a full-time employee, a content editor in Pakistan, and a $2,000 a month vendor. And I did it in 16 minutes for, I think the total cost for transcription fees was $1.07. So right there is a big one.
Yeah.
What we do use it for, though, is the rudimentary things day to day. Hey, I can now go to like my operations manager and say, hey, we have this lunch and learn coming up, and it's going to be about tax. And instead of me writing it, because I have this institutional knowledge about the topic, I go, you take an example of the email we wrote for the last one, substitute the tax topic, and use AI to create the email. Now, she all of a sudden is capable of doing what only I was able to write, a month ago.
Yeah.
So I just used that the other day with her, and she did a great job then. So when I, of course, edit it and make sure the final product is appropriate, and then say, let's go ahead and send it. So I just saved myself now ongoing time, because that's a workflow I can now give to her over and over again for different topics.
Great example of your sandwich. The human, AI, human.
Yes, has to be middle to middle.
Because you know what I heard somebody say? AI, this maybe someday this will be different, but AI is not going to replace you as an advisor, but an advisor using AI probably will.
I love that one.
Yeah,
that's me. So be careful, because that is us. I was trying to think of some. You can use it to help you with PowerPoint creation now. It's way more advanced than it was just 3 months ago. You can actually get something that's reasonable. However, I would just give you some advice. So use this as practical tips too. If you're using Claude or you're using ChatGPT, the ones I'm most familiar with, provide skill set and direction on PowerPoint creation, the interface itself, meaning the end. I forget what the term is they use, but basically what's being looked at. And so you give it like artistic capability.
Oh, yeah.
I used a prompt basically in a skill builder, and I said, I want you to think Steve Jobs and Leonardo da Vinci when you're creating my PowerPoints. Lo and behold, my PowerPoints look way different.
A lot of fingers touching
They just look great. Yeah, exactly. We've got the all sorts of Leonardo references, but no, it just makes it look. It just looks better.
Nice. What about let's talk client experience then. So what tactical uses here? Client experience. You mentioned the document you were putting together for meeting preps. What about summaries, follow-ups, and personalization?
I did. Yes. So we use it so much now. I forget that it's even AI. We were using Zox. We are migrating over to the organic version of meeting transcription that's built into WealthBox. So unfortunately, Zox for us is not quite as convenient as having the same capability already built into the CRM we use, and they just launched it. We did an experiment for the last 2 weeks. So this is all brand new, by the way.
Yeah.
Like even this transition, we haven't even finalized it yet. We're migrating from Zox to the WealthBox version, but it gives us, number one, this is where my advisor, get feedback from your team. What are their primary roadblocks? Where are their constraints? What would be the highest level things if you could take it off their plate, it would save them time? So this one was, he said, every week on Fridays, So the advisor and his co-advisor partner who handle all of our operations, they have to go into Zox, review all the meetings we had, and make sure they get downloaded into the WealthBox CRM because they expire in 30 days. And if you forget to do it, you lose the data. So they had to come up with a process to remember to download it all instead of doing it contemporaneously after each meeting because there's so much to do during the week. It worked better to put it into a compartmentalized time on Friday. Well, we don't have to do that anymore because it's all going to be already innately embedded inside of the CRM. And now the search function's way better. When you go, hey, what did we talk about last time regarding trusts? Well, last time you were talking about this with their trust, and it's just so much better. Which goes to another thing you can do. I created a trust evaluation tool. However, you must, if you do that kind of thing, and if you are going to use, you're looking for an IRA kind of component, you have to make sure that the trust is completely anonymized, that you don't have any personal information, TINs, nothing like that. But you can take paragraphs out, copy and paste some paragraphs that are, boilerplate, if you will, and say, how does this address inherited IRAs, for example? And so I did that, and it's like, this one doesn't address inherited IRAs. You still must read and verify. But if it confirms the ideas that you kind of already know as a professional in this arena anyway, the time from idea and need to analyze to outcome and then email. So my workflow went like this. Take the couple of paragraphs that relate to this, ask it what it saw, and it gave me a great breakdown and then said, you might want to think about these things, which was amazing. So I did think about those things. I said, create me a 2-paragraph summary. Boom. I go take that summary, create an email to the client from me using the tone that we have discussed and kind of built in. 30 seconds later, I had an email. I fixed the email up a little bit and sent it out the door. I did a complete trust evaluation with the email going out to the client in roughly 9 minutes.
That's crazy.
That would have been an hour of reading, all of it on my own, and then creating all this, the thought, it's unbelievable.
It's crazy the amount of time it can free up and then what you can do with that time.
And the client was amazed.
Yeah.
Because you talked about client retention, like how are you using it with clients? They're like, that is so accurate. Like it appears accurate. And like, I know it is because I verified it. But they're like, how did you get it in such a clear summary and so quickly back to me? They can't even understand it.
Standing operating procedures, staff support, has it changed your staffing needs?
Yes. I actually need an AI forward marketing person to take on the role that I'm filling right now. So I actually need to hire somebody to be the beginning and the end of that. Right?
Sandwich, yep.
But I also am realizing now, once again, that I don't need to hire more operational staff. With my current operational staff of 4, I will be able to achieve what I probably thought I needed to have 8 people to do. So if we can 5 or 10x their productivity without 5 or 10xing their effort and their workload, that's the thing. You got to balance that out, right? You're not trying to say you just work harder and you work 50 hours a week instead of 40 hours a week and get more done. It's like, no, within the same 40 hours, you're just going to get more done.
Yeah.
That's the nirvana. And they feel good about it. When they produce good outputs, and it's relevant and powerful and helps clients be retained and provides great accuracy. The clients love our post-meeting notes that go out via email that are basically encapsulated by these transcriptions. They're like, these are the most detailed I've ever seen. This is so good.
Do they ask you if it's AI?
Sometimes, and they don't care. They used to care. The whole thing about AI and transcribing, when we first started using this like 2.5 years ago and Zoom had the people were like, oh my God, I got to let them know. It's going to alert them and they're going to be freaking out. In my opinion, that is completely off the table. Clients don't care at all. When we go, hey, we're using Zox to transcribe. It doesn't record. It just transcribes, and so we get good data. We don't miss anything. I have not had a single person over 2 years have any complaints whatsoever.
Okay, so Eric, I'm going to put you on a spot. What would be one for somebody listening to this that has never used AI? What would be maybe their first prompt you would have them try? So
go on YouTube and look for a video that talks about prompt development, and that prompt development has an acronym called RICECO, RICECO. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but let me give you some ideas. Number one is if you're asking it to do something, assign it a role. So for example, if you're trying to create a standard operating procedure, which if you're not creating those for your firm right now, because you could get them done in about 1 hour, you should be doing it. But if you want to do it, you'd say, I'm assigning you the role of a competent technical writer that understands processes and can then articulate them in a document so that operationally a new employee could come in, read the document, execute the workflows. When you assign it a role, it researches differently than if you say, I want to create an SOP. It's like, okay, I better investigate the whole world of data out there instead of focusing in on maybe HR best practices. I
wrote an email. I had to do an email, and it was a very touchy situation. And so I described
Was that the one you sent me?
It was the one I sent. I dictated what I wanted to say, but the role that I assigned AI was, I said, you're an expert in diplomacy, office politics, and you're also a copywriter.
Yes,
and,
there you go.
It was great.
Another one is give it constraints. Where do you not want it to go? But
that is a good segue right there. Let's talk compliance. So let's talk.
Sure.
We're going to go into compliance. We're going to talk about risk, but let's start right there. Constraints. What do you mean by that?
Well, a constraint could be, for example, don't cover this topic, only cover this topic if you're just talking about emails, because sometimes it wants to go on tangents. Mm-hmm. If you're looking at data, you could tell it what data to look at and what data not to research if it's going online for public and for domain information, for example. We've already got built in an SEC compliance tool where I gave it the regulations and the link to the Securities and Exchange Commission website and said, I want you to apply all these advertising regulations to everything we do. And then I think this is, if anybody listened this far into the podcast, this was the coolest thing that we did. Inside of Claude in particular, where you can add skills that become the brain to make it more customized, we created what we call a soul. So S-O-U-L, a soul. So it has a soul skill. And we told it that this soul skill has to be overlapping all other skills. So you always look at the soul skill first. Honesty, integrity, following the law, reviewing the law against everything we do in our industry, in particular the advertising acts under the SEC. And then there were a couple other things about how to communicate with me, never leave me hanging, like if there's a problem, directly address it, red flag it immediately. And it does. So that kind of principle skill has created different outputs and gates that I have to go through that forces me to think through things before it'll say, before I create this, I have to let you know that, my soul says you have to be thinking about this particular thing hard.
Nice. That's cool. Really cool.
It is neat.
That's really cool. You are an early adopter. Okay, so you are also an IAR.
Yes.
So let's talk about working with compliance. When it comes to that, examples, advice for advisors that are listening out here. Which one you do need to? Everyone always thinks compliance is the Department of No, and they're out to stop you from having fun.
Only if you don't have a good compliance team.
Well, that's
Creative
true
One Wealth's compliance team is not like that. They're amazing.
This is true. Okay, so with that being said, though. Let's talk a little bit about it. Give us maybe a real world example, some tips to anyone listening out there.
Number one, you can't put anything retail facing, meaning to a client, any document unless you've got compliance approval. That's the black and white bottom line. You can't do it, which means don't be afraid to show your stuff to compliance if you think it's ready for prime time. But be prepared to go through the technical backing of it, how you're creating it, what the assumptions are, all appropriate disclaimers on what you might claim and how it's addressed with an actual disclaimer. Hint, AI can help you create the technical document for submittal to compliance. Hint, hint, hint. So we actually have some of our tools sitting in compliance right now getting reviewed, and when approved, we're going to use them for use in front of the client.
How's their reaction been? Because there's a learning curve that has to happen on that side too.
Well, the easier you make it for them, the more data you provide in a clear and concise manner that limits their primary research, and they are only having to confirm instead of create, will ease the path. FINRA broker-dealer, you're going to have a way harder time. First of all, we know that for a fact. But SEC compliance protocols are just different, bottom line, and there are pretty clear regulations and guidelines. So long as you can provide this data and you can say how you're handling the NPI, in my opinion, this is me, this is the way I always start with everything, it's possible. So if it's possible, I'm going to work it. So I have things in compliance right now, and the feedback I've received so far is, wow, this is straightforward. It is easy to use. The compliance document you submitted for review really got us there quick. They only had 3 follow-up questions. I'm waiting for approval, and I think I'll have approval within 2 weeks.
Nice. So do you think, true or false, do you think the fear of compliance is overblown?
Always. Although I will say, depending on your organization, it might not be. I
That's
used to
true.
be with a huge BD, and my fear of compliance was not overblown. I remember one time they told me, they said, Eric, if you want to do a Social Security seminar, you realize you have to give us 6 months leeway. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
That's ridiculous.
I can get it, except for the timeline required for logistics of mailers. Our compliance team can approve things in a day here,
Yeah.
literally a day.
Yeah.
So it's like there are teams that can beat you into submission where you think you're not allowed to do anything. Here's the deal. If it meets the rules and regulations, by and large, you should be able to do it. Go through the appropriate channels, approvals, and changes as required to make it happen. I don't understand where any compliance team could – now they can make things harder. They're allowed to make it more restrictive, which they're allowed to by the guidelines actually, which is fine. Then I just say, what are those guidelines? I will work in the guidelines. But don't just say no. And I wouldn't
God,
take
I
no
hate
for an
that, yeah.
answer no matter where you're at. And if you are, go somewhere else.
So, okay, a couple things then. What would you never put in AI? I think we've hit this, but
Non-public information.
Non-public
So one of the
information.
rules is
define them.
yeah. So social security number, dates of birth are kind of available out there, but we never would put date of birth in there, at this point with any other secondary piece. So it's when you combine more than one piece, you never do account numbers, you never do social security numbers. You could do age, right? You could do just age, but you never want to have two pieces of data that when put together could provide somebody information to be able to either access, somebody's information by hacking them or something else. But if you literally just have name and then this other data that's public data or non-NPI data, like is their Social Security on or off? So it's just a column that says on off. Like that's not something that can be used to get into somebody's data points.
Get in there too far.
So you just have to make sure you know what NPI is and how it's regulated and how multiple pieces can create system failure that could allow hacking to occur. So I used to be – I'm Series 24 licensed, which is kind of what the compliance folks have. So maybe I have a little better insight than some, but it's kind of also obvious. Just don't give anything private away. You have a fiduciary responsibility to keep not just the NPI, but the contents of conversations with clients private. They're telling you things that you are obligated through privacy rules not to disclose anyway. So you got to make sure all that's being applied.
You got to be safe. I love it. Okay, so let's talk strategic advantage then. And I think these will be easy ones for you to knock out because I feel like we've hit on them. But does AI, true or false, AI widens the gap between the average and elite advisor?
Absolutely. No question about it. And if you don't think so, you are the other advisor that's losing. You just don't know it yet.
I was just going to say, what happens if an advisor ignores AI for, say, this is going to sound like an attorney when I say 3 years, but if they ignore AI for the next 12 months, 6 months.
You will be that vision you had of retiring maybe in your early 60s instead of mid 60s will become a reality, and you'll rationalize and say, I wanted to get out of the industry faster anyway.
Yeah.
Just like, my dad, when back in the days, he's passed away now, but he was a guidance counselor and they made him get a computer for work. And I saw his picture of him holding the computer up once and he's like, I'm never turning this thing on. I will retire earlier and make this happen without ever having to use this computer. And he did.
There you go.
So that's what's going to happen with some advisors.
So what do you think an advisory firm looks like in 5 years?
I think that there's going to be heavy development by the bigger firms to create some more autonomous workflows ready packaged for advisors.
Yeah.
And they will already be compliance approved. They'll have APIs that can integrate and only hit the right types of fields and different systems that you use. But bottom line is, I think that integration will become easier over time. I still believe everybody needs to be ahead of the game because of that wave I talked about. That if you're always back here and I'm always up here, my adoption and evolution could keep me 5x ahead of you all the time. Yeah. So don't let that be you. And if you need to hire somebody because it's not your strength, then you hire somebody to be like your AI innovation person. Whatever it takes, it's going to take over the industry and industries. I believe so. In like not take over and do it, but it's going to take over as an efficiency inducer. And you have to be ready to kind of wrap your arms around it and figure out how to control it and use it.
That's right.
Right now, it's like a crocodile swinging that tail around. People are jumping on it, trying to grab it and getting thrown off. But, if you can ride that thing and you can figure it out, it's going to be in your favor.
I think we were talking about this last night. There's a third person in the wave analogy. Remember, I said this last night.
The sharks?
No. There's
No.
there's that person you see on the internet video where they're standing in
and
the
they
shallows.
crash.
They're not paying attention, and the wave just crushes them.
Okay.
You either ride the wave, maybe you're trying to wait for the next one, or you're just going to get.
Let's
smashed.
talk about that. This is because this goes to our core principles of Rainmaker anyway, which is the struggle is real, and everybody else gives up. So that person that crashed, here's what I'm watching with my binoculars. Did they get back on the board or not? If they got back on the board, they're going to probably be even better off than people who haven't tried anything.
That's true.
And then they're going to make it. It's if you say, that was too much for me, I'm not going to do it anymore, and you come back on shore and you put the board against the tree and you stop.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
That is
Everybody's crashing. How many times have I crashed in the last year on this stuff? I couldn't even tell you.
Well, we're going to get to that actually. Let's talk. So let's talk starter as we're going to start landing this plane here. But so if I'm an advisor and I'm watching, I'm barely using AI at all. Where do I start this week? Piece of advice.
Well, here's what you can go into your first of all, get a subscription to something. Don't just use the free version.
Yep.
Ads are going to start coming soon that are going to infiltrate and bug you anyway.
That's going to be the worst. Yeah.
So get a paid version. Explain to AI what you do. Maybe give it your website. If you've written a book, link it to your book so it knows really all about you. And then ask it, how can you help me with process development, efficiency, and client communication? Ask it. Yep. It'll tell you.
And assign a role.
Assign it a role. Yeah, like you're a business
coach.
development coach or a specialist in process and development for organizational structure. Yeah. So there's a million things, but first is learn how to use it for the basics with email, making better emails, changing your tone so you don't sound like a jerk like I do in my first iteration always. And then I'm like, make this sound friendlier, makes it friendlier, and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I was so friendly. And then you want to use it maybe for some document creation. Say, hey, can you format this better? Yeah. Create a PowerPoint, learn how to do that because now it can be done. It couldn't be done before. Here's what's so interesting though. Most people have access to Copilot because they use Edge. Copilot's a Microsoft product, and yet it's the worst one at creating Microsoft documents, whether it's Word or PowerPoint. It'll actually say things like, hey, I've created your document for you right here, and it's not there. And you go like, I thought you downloaded it. And it'll say back to you, oh, I can't create documents. Then a minute later, it might be able to create it. Like, I don't know why, but Copilot's the worst. Claude has specialty Python code in it that knows how to create PowerPoints. Yeah. So it creates ChatGPT creates PowerPoints and Word documents with no problem at all. So know the versions you're using, the models you're using, and maybe get comfortable with one at a minimum or two. And I don't recommend, frankly, starting with Copilot, ChatGPT and or Claude. Now, I use Perplexity, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Copilot. So I've got them all rocking and rolling.
You're an outlier.
I got max plans on 3 of them. So, but that's what you do. And then make sure if you create a PowerPoint, let me just iterate again, do not use that in front of a client until you get compliance approval.
I couldn't agree more. So, okay, let's do a little lightning round here.
Let's do it.
We'll wrap here. We'll wrap here. So AI replaces paraplanners, yes or no?
No.
AI replaces advisors, yes or no?
No.
Most overrated AI use? I got one for that.
Overrated AI use. I mean, I want to say email because it's what everybody does, but I don't know that it's overrated because it's actually extremely helpful and really does work well. So I don't know that it's overrated. I don't think much about AI is overrated. I think it's understated.
Well, there you go. That was I was just going to say most underrated AI use, and that's just
everything.
Using everything.
Everything.
One skill advisors must double down on.
Overcoming your lack of inertia and your pride to say, if I don't want to do it or can't do it, get somebody who can. Do not say, therefore, I'm going to ignore it.
That's a good one. What does the advisor who wins in 2030 look like?
Early adopters that are following the rules, but also thinking creatively about where the gaps are or the constraints in their businesses at team level, organizational level, individual level, applying the Pareto principle that we always talk about, the 80-20 rule. If I were to fix this, the outcome is the highest impact thing that I could have. And then focus all your attention on that until you've basically got it solved. Because here's a downfall. You get 80% done creating something that might actually be very helpful. You get burnout and stop.
Yeah.
All that effort for nothing. You must take something to fruition so you can actually use it, which requires that extra bit of Superman effort, Superwoman effort, because it's hard to do that. When you're creating anything, the first 90% of it's actually rather rapid. The last 10% of creating it is taking 5 times longer than the first 90% of creation, and that's where people give up. Or they might be tempted to do something wrong, like not get compliance approval or not work on this little piece. You got to think it through
Get that
better.
final fix. Get it all the way to all the way
to the
across
finish line. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to say, folks, as we wrap up this episode, I think one of the biggest. I'm going to go all the way back to something you said at the very beginning. I even wrote it down right there. I think one of the biggest takeaways from this podcast is the fact that you're dedicating at least an hour a day, right? if not more. But for anything,
Heidi, is she laughing right now? It's like 5 to 6. As soon as I get home and eat dinner, I turn it on. She's had to create a rule with me, which I love that she did this. I must stop coding at 9 p.m.
I must stop coding it. Okay, so the one thing you said though early was that you dedicate time during the workday.
Some intermittent, I have it running in the background.
But you're
things.
dedicating learning time.
Absolutely.
So for everybody that's on here, wherever you're at, this is a reality. This will free up time for you to go bigger picture. But you should be dedicating learning time to going from, asking where's the best restaurant or how can I hang pictures, which I've done, to really getting into your business and how looking at what you're doing on a daily basis and can you automate that? Can AI do that for you so you can spend more time with your clients? Any final thoughts, Mr. Rainmaker?
Job descriptions, social media posting copy, emails, of course, workflow creation, organizational structure and recommendations on next hire, communication tools to clients and internally, standard operating procedures. Take any 2 of those and start working on them and you'll be on the path.
Love it. I love it. All right, everybody, for everyone else, Eric, thanks for letting me be here with you.
My pleasure.
For everybody else, don't forget, if you have not made the move to like, subscribe, and follow the show, definitely do that so that you are in the know the next time a new episode drops. With that being said, we'll see you next time.